The story that I'm going to tell you this time is kind of a somber one. It has to do with the death of my mother, Monique Claudette Sadler, in early 2000, right at the beginning of the new millennium. And, that happened more than 22 years ago. This is not like a special anniversary like the 20th or 50th or something like that, but my memory about that was jogged a few days ago when I went into Facebook, and you know how Facebook has Facebook memories. So it was about the actual day, the 22nd of January, when my mom died, and I'd posted some pictures of her that her old boyfriend, Fran, who you may know about, is sort of like a surrogate dad to me. I was lucky in that I had several different dads in my life. That's a whole other story with a whole other video. He had sent some pictures of my mom that he had on old film rolls, and he digitized them, and I was like, well, this is really quite cool. You can see who she was and what she was like. And I saw that a couple days ago, and then I was remembering back to what it was like in 2000 when I was in graduate school down at Southern Illinois and 29 years old. I had just seen my mom over Christmas break, which we'd spent at my partly up there at her new house that she'd recently bought, mortgaged to the hilt, by the way, in Brookfield, and partly down in Indiana on my family's land, the complex, the Lumreys complex. So I didn't find out that she died the day that she died. She was down in Costa Rica, and she was doing this whitewater rafting trip with 5 other people, including her boyfriend at the time, her live-in boyfriend, and one of his sons, who I didn't particularly like. He was kind of a skeevy guy, and a couple other people on the trip. And, long story short, there were some safety problems with the company that they were working with. The rivers were, much more dangerous than they had been in the past because they were gorged with waters that had come from, extra rainfall and stuff. And if things had been done right, they would not have been allowed onto that river. And many people were surprised that they were. It turned out that my mom's boyfriend was dead set on them going out there. My mom actually opposed some, reservations about it, and he overcame it. We also found later on that he'd torn out pages of her diary, probably concealing that from all the rest of us. And on the trip, they went on the river, and eventually they capsized. My mother died. She drowned. Another person on the trip actually drowned as well. Her boyfriend's son broke his arm, and there they were in the middle of the jungle on a river in Costa Rica in bad conditions, with some of them half drowned, some of them dead. The Red Cross had to go in and make a way to the actual site, strap the dead people to their backs, literally backpack them, the corpses, out. And then I was contacted I was living in a trailer at the time in Southern Illinois, and it was the middle of winter, very cold inside my trailer. I kept the heat around 55 degrees because it was so badly insulated that there wasn't much point in making it warmer. And I remember getting the call, and I had, at that time, it wasn't a cell phone. It was, one of those desk phones that plugged into the wall, and hearing this person talking on the other end saying, "Are you Greg Sadler?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm Greg Sadler." And then this woman was like, "Well, I don't remember exactly whether she was the U.S. consul herself or a representative, but she said, I've got some really bad news for you, and I'm going to need to get some details from you." And I was like, "Well, what happened?" And then she starts telling me this story, minus a lot of the details that I've already mentioned to you, about my mom drowning on a whitewater rafting trip in Costa Rica. And then she said, well, we've recovered the body, and we're having it cremated now, and we'd like to know how you would like to get the remains. And I was like, why'd you cremate it? Oh, well, because, by the time a body comes out of the jungle after a day, and given the difference between embalming practices in Costa Rica and the United States, we're not shipping a body back. And I was actually kind of relieved because, dealing with somebody who's been cremated is in many respects, a lot simpler than dealing with a corpse coming back that then has to be attended to in many different ways. And there was going to be a lot of work ahead of me. I knew that already. Because I was, my mother and father, they couldn't have kids, so they adopted me and my sister. My sister at the time was living up in the Fox Cities where she'd moved to and still lives now. She was with her first husband, and she was pregnant and was not really great at handling things anyway. So I knew it was going to be falling a lot onto my shoulders. And so I said, well, send her remains back with her boyfriend. He's coming back here, I'm sure. And the consul said, okay, that's fine. We're going to get you some copies of death certificates. You're going to need them for everything that's coming up. Really sorry to hear about this. If there's anything I can do, here's my number, et cetera, et cetera. And so she mailed the death certificates to my mother's house because that's where we were going. And my girlfriend at the time was another graduate student who eventually I married later on and then divorced. She was actually living in the same park. So I went over and I told her the news, and she said, well, what can we do? And I said, well, we have to get up to my mom's house, and we have to get up there before the boyfriend does, because when he comes back, he's going to be trouble. So, and we got to find, all the documents and things like that, and start calling the relatives, and, this is going to be a big thing. So we piled into her car, or actually SUV. It was a smaller SUV with a rag top, and boy, was it cold driving up there. And it was, this is a 7-hour drive to get up there in good conditions, 8 hours, So we leave in the early afternoon. We get up there, and it's, in the dark of winter night. And I knew where the spare key was, so, I go in there, and we're, almost immediately met by 2 little pug cats that my mom had bought, little snotty-nosed things, which I liked, but I felt bad for because they had such trouble breathing all the time. And, I knew that they had been cat sat, but that I'd be taking care of them. And we get up there, and we just started doing a little bit of preliminary looking at documents, found the will, found, a few other things, and then started making some calls to my relatives. And everything starts moving out through the grapevine. I come from a very large family, the Lemrees clan, on my mother's side, and so all of them are getting notified, and everything starts going into motion. And the next day, it's like handling all sorts of details. And, I think maybe it was that night that her boyfriend shows up, and he's got the urn, and he's all crying, and, the love of my life, and all that. And I don't want to be, unsympathetic, but he was also kind of a grifter. And as my, mom's friend Fran called him, a gigolo. And he had been living with her basically rent-free for quite a long time in her old house and in the new house. He actually tried to claim that he had equity in the new house, and my family and I put the kibosh on that very quickly. She actually put into her will, because she knew how much I disliked him, that I needed to give him some time to get his shit together to move out, because she knew that I otherwise would be tempted to throw him out right away. And there was a lot of, over the next week, as we're getting, everything ready and organizing a funeral mass, which is a whole different story. Because my mom wasn't registered in the parish, the priest didn't want to do a funeral mass for her. And I was like, listen, we're going to have the same problem in any other parish, so you don't get to kick this down the road. You're doing a funeral mass, and here's what we want to happen. And he sort of gave in on that. And then we had, the wake afterwards, the Visitation, and that was itself, there's a story to be told about that. So my mother was, at the time, the secretary of a club that she had belonged to for a very long time, the Vagabond Ski Club of Milwaukee, right? Vagabonds was basically for like middle class on up people who were widowed or divorced and wanted to make relationships or even just hook up with other people in similar circumstances, generally like 40 and over, I would say. And she'd been a member of that for a long time. And they did all sorts of cool stuff like going on skiing or going to vacations. And it was good for her. They would go dancing. And she was the secretary of that club at the time. So basically all the members of the club showed up at the Visitation, as did about 150 of my family, as did I don't know how many people from Tombstone Pizza, where she was working. She had, been the secretary to the general manager and then moved into HR and had all sorts of friends there. So I would say there were at least 100, I would say that at least 1,500 people showed up at the Visitation, which means that we're all standing in the receiving line, I'm wearing the black suit that she had bought me, just that Christmas prior. I've talked about that in another video. It was fortunate that she'd bought that. It was hanging for me in the closet, tailored, and I could use it, for all of the funeral stuff. And we were there standing in the line for 6 hours, meeting and greeting people, having people come up and shake your hand and say, I'm so sorry for your loss. People said all sorts of other crazy bullshit too. These vagabonders were weird types. Some of them would go into, theological discourses about stuff, or they'd say, oh, she's an angel looking down on you. And after a while, I kind of lost my patience with them, and I would say, yeah, well, for all we know, she's in hell. That's correct theology. So don't give me all this, I didn't go on any further, because usually their eyes would bulge out and then they'd move on quickly. And, then we didn't actually get to bury her until much later because the ground was frozen, and we had a separate ceremony for that, I think in April. But this was just sort of the beginning of things. And, my mom was a very active, dynamic, friendly, outgoing person. Even manic. She had some struggles. There's some mental illness in our family, and some people are bipolar, and she got just the polar side of that, which made her very, popular at parties, but sometimes could make it difficult to carry on discussions and relate to. But I loved her, and she loved me, and my sister, and it was a great loss, She was 53 when she died. Now, my dad was much younger, 36. But they both were robbed of a lot of time that they could have had. And I did get to talk to her much longer than my dad, right? And we got to have a relationship that was essentially between adults, albeit, an older adult and somebody growing into adulthood, not somebody like I am today, where I'm almost as old as she was when she died. But the loss, the absence, all of that, the finality of it, you don't quite realize a good bit of that while all the arrangements are going on and everybody's shaking your hands. It's months later that comes to mind, and years later, and when there's an anniversary and you think about it. And you've got a lot of choices. You can celebrate somebody, you can dwell on the pleasant memories, you can argue with them in your head about stuff that, should have been done differently. You can deal with the emptiness, the loss, the sorrow, which never fully goes away, I would say. You can celebrate the achievements and the high points of their life. You can relate to them as well as an adult in ways that maybe you can't as a younger adult or a kid, and think, oh, wow, what must it have been like having me as a kid, when I look at my own kids and I'm like, boy, they're stubborn, There's lots and lots of things like that. And, I'm a bit sad in talking about this here, and I'm not quite sure what I'm sad about, but sometimes it's good just to register what's going on with yourself. So in any case, I was reminded of how I found out about my mom's death a couple days later, and then became the person who was supposed to be basically handling everything, and what it was like, that long, cold drive, being in the house, meeting and greeting people, talking with people, going out to the garage to have a beer and smoke some cigarettes and just think about what the hell was going on or what's going next or any of those things. In her house, in a place, making decisions not for her but about her and what her ending and legacy would be. So those are my reflections, not particularly organized, but seeing that Facebook memory made me think about that. And then today is probably the anniversary of my finding out about my mother's death.